guys, it is AP, and today we are going to be continuing where we left off in the last episode slash part of making our HTML slash JavaScript game. Now, what we did in the last one is we made this very simple black rectangle over the, canvas. And so the next thing we got to do is we're going to simplify this process. Now, you might think this is a little difficult because you have two things, but not to worry. We can just simplify this into one easy thing. I don't know what it's called. So what we got to do here is just DrawRect. We're going to define a DrawRect. We're going to have some parameters. What parameters do is just once you call the function, you could just call it with these parameters, like so DrawRect. And if you just leave it like this, it's like, well, where would I put it? It's like, oh, at this location, but you didn't give me a location. Oh. And so that's what parameters do. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to do the same thing as we did in the context.fill rect down here, but we're going to combine it with the context.fill style, and we're just going to add another parameter, and we're just going to be calling this like color, like just black. So it can make it easier for us. And then we can make more rectangles, like, oh, I want to make another rectangle at this location, and it's white this time. So it just makes it a lot easier for us. But now, we need to actually fill it in. So the parameters are x, y, width, height, and color, which is C. But what we need to do is we need to replace the numbers that we need to put in here with the actual variables. So instead of canvas.width, we can just replace that with width, or W. And instead of canvas.height, we can just replace that with W instead of 0, 0, X and Y. And instead of black, we can just have, see, it's pretty simple. And so what this does is, instead of doing it straight from the context, we can just do it from a function. It does pretty much the same thing, refresh, all the same thing. Now what we're going to add is we're going to add a square in the middle, and yeah, we're just going to add a square, which it's the same thing as a rectangle. All it is how big it is. It's really simple. So what we need to do is, after we draw this, we don't want to draw it before because then it would get shoved under the black rectangle and we wouldn't see it. But after we do this, we need to draw another rectangle. This is why we make a function, then we can keep calling it over and over again. But after we draw that black rectangle, we can call it at the middle of the screen minus half our width, which is going to be 50, so I'd just say 25. And then in the middle of the height, so it'll be canvas.height divided by 2 minus 25 because it's a square. And then 25, not 35. And then we're going to make it as big as wide, so it would be 50 by 50, make it a square. And it's going to be white, so it can contrast the black background. So it should just make a white rectangle in the direct center. So that's pretty simple, Okay, so now we're going to go to where the actual set interval comes in handy, because frames per second, and then updating what we want to do to our square. So the first thing we need to do is make it to where it goes back and forth to actually move the thing. So we need to create another variable up here, and it's just going to be called square x, or x, yes. Square x. Now we don't want to define it up here because, you know, canvas hasn't been actually defined yet. So what we need to do is we need to define it in the new window.on mode. So what we do here is we just do the same thing and we define it here. Now of course we're just going to replace this right here, Control X, but we're going to make another variable called var square S. Now what this means, it's size, and we can actually divide it here. It's size, so we can define it there, and it'll be a lot easier because then we can just replace a lot of this hard-coded stuff with variable-coded. So the first thing we need to do is we need to subtract it by square S divided by 2, which is 25. And so that should be the same thing, it's just we can make it a variable instead of hard-coded. So canvas.height divided by 2 minus square S divided by 2 should do the same thing. And now we can just replace these two with square X and square Y. Yep, pretty simple, and nothing that could go wrong, I guess. Now, what I wanted to actually do with this is then we need to create another variable called square X speed, and it's going to be just 5. And then we're going to create another variable called square ys, and that's just going to be 3. So now, what that actually does is in our new update function, so we just call this function dot, or not function dot, it's function, and we're just going to call it update. Now, this is what this function does, is just going to add square x plus x speed every time. So we're going to do a simple equation here. It'll just be square x plus equals, which means that you add whatever is on the right side to the left side, and don't actually change, don't like equal the left side to the right side. Okay, so and then we could call this square x speed, and then we can do the same for y, which is square y plus equals square y speed, which is down here. So what this should do is should move it to the right. And if I've done this all correctly, that means it should work. Actually, we can just replace this with square s, and then replace also this with square s. So just in case we change that to a smaller size, then it would be better. So what this should do is it should start moving it to the right and down. So let's go here. See, it starts moving down, but it just goes off the window, as you can see. Goes and then goes and then goes. So what we need to do is we need to make it bounce off the walls of the window. Now, it should be pretty simple if you know what to do, but you can have pixel perfect collision, or you can have like just halfway collision. Anyways, I'm going to do halfway collision, then show you how you would put pixel perfect collision. So the first thing you gotta do is this is why I used variables, is you got to find where the square x is. So if square x is less than 0, or actually just greater than canvas dot width, which is 800, that means we want to bounce it off. Now how do we do this, you say? Well, it's a very simple process, and what we do is just we do square x equals square negative. It's actually negative square x. So what this means is it will reverse its direction the x ways but not the y ways, because then it would just go left and up instead of down, right and down. So we can do this to all 4 walls, which is y, y, x, x. So if x is less than canvas width, or 0, then we need to actually, you would always put it as negative, because if it's at 0, then it would go backwards, and it'll always go the other way it came from. So if we keep actually like organization where it's like that, so now it would be y instead of x, and it should just bounce off the screen very beautifully. But as you can see, if you want to see how to do pixel perfect collision, however, you you want to just continue watching this. So, square Y, and instead of width, it's height. Actually, no, it's 0. It's less than 0. 0, and then you change the width to height here. So what it should do is it should bounce off the screen. Did I save it? Okay, save. And it should bounce on. Why is this not working? Okay, so square, and then if is greater than window, which is correct, and then less than 0, which is correct. It's doing it every frame, which is correct. So, okay, save, and then save on the other way. So it doesn't do that. So it could be an error here. Okay, so there's no errors. Let me find what happened. Okay, so I figured out what I did wrong here. It's not supposed to be X, it's supposed to be X speed. Because if it was X, and then you actually break it. I don't know how it would become negative. It doesn't actually do anything. But it should work. So I'm gonna save that, and now it should bounce off. There we go. But as you can see, it bounces off. Oh, not from that wall, because so as you can see, it's bouncing from the top left of the square, then the top right. So I mean, this should work fine after I fix something. So now, if we want pixel perfect collection, we need to go to the ones with the canvas width, and we need to add square S. That's one of the reasons why I put it square S as a variable. Then we need to go over here, square S, right here. There we go. Control save. So what this should do is it should have pixel perfect collision with all the walls. Now this would go on forever, but now we're gonna add some distractions in the next episode. So I hope you like this episode. If it was helpful, please comment and maybe subscribe or like, or it'll help a lot for the channel. Anyways, without further ado, I'll see you in the next episode. This is AP, and I'm signing out. Bye!